This is about a new war in Gaza and Israel. The war is a very sad and serious event. It started on October 7, 2023. On that day, a group called Hamas made a big attack on Israel. Hamas is a group from Gaza. In this attack by Hamas, many people in Israel lost their lives. It was a very violent day. Hamas also took many other people from Israel. These people were made hostages and taken into Gaza. This made people in Israel very scared. Because of the attack, Israel decided to fight back. Israel's army started a big military operation in Gaza. The main aim was to stop Hamas. Another aim was to bring the hostages home. Israeli soldiers and planes attacked places in Gaza where they thought Hamas fighters were. The fighting has not stopped for a long time. The war continued all through 2024. Now it is 2025 and the war is still going on. People hoped it would end, but the fighting continues every day. It is a very long conflict. Many people have died in Gaza. Reports say tens of thousands of Palestinians have been killed. A very large number of these are children. Many more children are hurt. They have lost their parents or their homes. Life in Gaza is extremely hard for people there. Countries around the world are very worried about this war. They see the terrible suffering of ordinary people. They are worried about deaths and injuries, especially to children. Many leaders and organizations ask for the war to stop. They want peace. The world watches with deep concern. 2. How the war began. The war began with a surprise. On October 7, 2023, fighters from Hamas attacked Israel. Hamas is a group that controls Gaza. They crossed from Gaza into Israel early in the morning. This attack was very sudden. The Hamas fighters killed many people. More than 1,200 people in Israel died that day. Most of these people were civilians, like families in their homes or young people at a music event. Hamas also took about 250 people back to Gaza. These people became hostages, and Hamas kept them. Israel quickly responded to the attack. Within a few days, Israel said it was closing Gaza. This is sometimes called a siege. It meant that things like food, water, and electricity could not easily go into Gaza. Israel also started a big bombing campaign. Airplanes dropped many bombs on different parts of Gaza. Soon, the fighting was not only between Israel and Hamas. Other groups in other places joined. For example, Hezbollah, a group in Lebanon, started to exchange fire with Israel across the border. Houthi forces in Yemen also became involved from far away. This made the situation more dangerous for more people. As Israel prepared for more fighting, it gave orders to people in Gaza. By late October, Israel told people living in the northern part of Gaza to leave their homes. They said this area would be a combat zone, so many families had to take their things and move south to find safety. Then, Israeli soldiers entered Gaza. This was a ground offensive. It means soldiers and tanks went into Gaza to fight Hamas directly. This was a new and serious part of the war. There were big battles inside Gaza's cities. Israeli soldiers and Hamas fighters fought in urban areas. Places like Gaza City and Khan Younis saw heavy fighting. These battles caused a lot of damage to buildings and streets. It was very difficult for people living in these cities. There were some short times when the fighting stopped. In November 2023, Israel and Hamas agreed to a temporary stop called a truce. During this time, Hamas freed some hostages and Israel released some Palestinian prisoners. But this truce only lasted for about 1 week, and then the fighting started again very strongly. Much later, in early 2025, there was another attempt at a ceasefire. This also did not last, and fighting began again in March. Israel said one of its main goals was to stop Hamas. As part of this, Israeli forces tried to find and kill Hamas leaders. During the first year of the war, there were reports that Israel had killed important military leaders from Hamas, like Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Daif, in 2024. The war did not end quickly. It continued through 2024 and into 2025. Even after a ceasefire attempt in early 2025 failed, the fighting became very strong again in March. Israel launched more military operations in different parts of Gaza. Both sides continued to fight. 3. Hard times for people. Life in Gaza is very, very hard for the people. The war makes everything difficult. Many thousands of Palestinians are killed. Reports say more than 52,000 people are dead. Many more people are hurt. More than 118,000 people have injuries from the fighting. Many children are also killed in this war. About 16,000 children are dead. Many other children are hurt very badly. UNICEF, a group that helps children, says more than 15,000 children have been killed or hurt in a way that changes their lives. This is a very sad part of the war. It is very difficult for people in Gaza to find food and clean water. Often, there is no electricity for lights or cooking. Israel closed the ways for food, fuel, and other important things to come into Gaza easily. This started in early March 2025. This means people do not have what they need to live every day. Many people are very hungry because there is not enough food. Almost all people in Gaza do not have enough to eat. A group that helps with food says almost 90% of people face extreme hunger. 9 out of 10 families may have no food at home. Children are especially hungry. Some children are visibly starving. This is very dangerous and can make them sick for life. The fighting destroyed many homes. More than half of all houses in Gaza are broken and people cannot live in them. Water systems are also broken, so many people have no safe place to stay or clean water. They must leave their homes. Since mid-March, about 430,000 more people had to move. They are now in different places, many sleeping outside or in tents. These places are not always safe. One time, a strike hit a school used as a shelter. More than 30 people died, including children. Hospitals in Gaza have very big problems. Many hospitals are full of hurt people. Some hospitals are broken from the fighting. The United Nations says hospitals are at a breaking point. They do not have enough medicine. They do not have fuel for electricity to run machines. Doctors and nurses try very hard to help, but it is very difficult. Help, like food and medicine, cannot get to the people easily. Aid groups want to help, but they say it is very hard to bring aid into Gaza. They say that blocking aid makes people suffer much more and is a cruel punishment. Not enough aid is coming in for everyone who needs it. A top UN person for aid said that blocking aid kills. The The situation for all people in Gaza is terrible. It is a time of great suffering. It is especially hard for families and their children. Many people in the world are very worried about them. The UN human rights chief warned that plans to move people south could make life impossible for them. 4. Who is fighting? Israel's leaders have explained their reasons for fighting in this war. They say their main goal is to make sure Hamas cannot attack Israel again. Another very important goal for Israel is to bring back all the hostages. These are the people who were taken from Israel by Hamas. The Israeli government, with Prime Minister Netanyahu, has repeated these aims. To try to achieve these goals, Israel's army is using its strength. They have dropped many bombs on different parts of Gaza. Israeli soldiers have also entered Gaza to fight on the ground. These are big military operations. Soldiers have fought in cities like Gaza City and Khan Younis. They have also done raids in places like Rafah. Israel has told people in some areas of Gaza to leave their homes. They usually tell them to move to the south of Gaza. Israeli officials say this is for people's safety. Israeli leaders also demand that Hamas must put down its weapons. Israel says that Hamas is the reason for the difficult situation and the suffering of people in Gaza. They accuse Hamas of using civilian areas, such as places near homes or schools, as shields to protect its fighters. Hamas still has control in parts of Gaza. Even after a long time of fighting, and even though Israel has killed some important Hamas leaders, Hamas still manages many things. It controls civil life and security in the areas it holds. For example, Hamas has people working in government offices, and it runs the police on the streets in some places. Before the fighting got much worse again in 2025, Hamas even worked with groups from the United Nations to help give out food and aid to people. Hamas continues to fight back against Israeli soldiers. Hamas says it has many thousands of fighters ready to fight. They also have rockets, which they sometimes fire towards southern Israel. Hamas leaders say they will not give up their control of Gaza. They also say they will not agree to a permanent end to the fighting unless Israel removes all of its soldiers from Gaza completely. The Palestinian Authority, often called the PA, is another Palestinian group. The PA is mainly in the West Bank, which is a separate land area from Gaza. The PA is not fighting in this war against Israel. However, its leaders are very worried about what is happening to the people in Gaza. The leader of the PA is President Mahmoud Abbas. He has talked about how the war is causing terrible suffering for Palestinian people. President Abbas has asked Hamas to stop fighting. He also said that the PA could help to govern Gaza. President Abbas believes that Gaza must be part of a future state of Palestine, together with the West Bank. One important point is that both the PA and Hamas agree that people from Gaza should not be forced to leave their land and move to other countries for good. 5. The world steps in. Many countries around the world watched the war. They were very worried. They wanted the fighting to stop. Many people were dying and many were suffering. This made countries sad and concerned. Big countries like the United States of America, USA, Germany, France, and the United Kingdom, UK, were very worried. They asked for peace many times. They said the large number of people killed was very bad. These countries asked for a ceasefire. A ceasefire is a stop to the fighting. They said this was needed immediately. They also wanted more humanitarian aid like food and medicine to reach the people in Gaza. The USA was very active. The U.S. President Donald Trump put pressure on Hamas to free hostages. The U.S. also talked to Israel. They asked Israel to protect civilians and to be careful in its attacks. At one point, the U.S. delayed sending some large bombs to Israel. This showed their concern. Leaders from Germany, France, and the UK often spoke together. They said that war was not the answer. They believed that only a lasting ceasefire and talks could bring peace. Not all big countries had the same ideas. For example, Russia and China sometimes stopped plans for peace at the United Nations. This showed that it was hard for the world to agree on one plan. Other countries like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand also spoke out. They said they were very worried about the suffering. They asked Israel to follow orders from international courts and to stop the fighting. Canada's foreign minister said she was horrified by attacks on places where people were living. Some countries in the Middle East worked hard to help Israel and Hamas talk. Qatar and Egypt were key mediators. This means they helped the two sides communicate. Leaders from Qatar and Egypt traveled and held many meetings. They tried to make deals for hostages to be freed and for aid to enter Gaza. These talks were secret and very difficult. Israel and Hamas did not trust each other. The mediators tried to find small steps they could agree on. The Prime Minister of Qatar said there was some progress, but Israel and Hamas did not share the same goal to end the war. Turkey also tried to help. Turkish leaders met with Hamas. They hoped to find a way to a bigger peace, maybe even a solution with two states for Israelis and Palestinians. The United Nations, UN, was extremely worried. The UN is a global organization that tries to keep peace and help people. Many parts of the UN spoke about the bad situation in Gaza. UN leaders said that the blockade of Gaza was making people starve. They reported that many thousands of Palestinians, including many children, had been killed or hurt. They said that homes, hospitals, and water systems were destroyed. The UN tried very hard to send aid to Gaza. This aid included food, water, and medicine. But the UN said it was very hard to get enough aid into Gaza. They said the roads were closed or dangerous. The UN told Israel that it must protect all civilians. They said Israel had to follow international law. The UN Security Council passed a resolution. This resolution demanded that Israel protect people and allow aid. UN human rights leaders warned that moving people by force was wrong. The International Criminal Court, ICC, also became involved. The ICC is a court that can charge people with war crimes. The ICC prosecutor wanted to get arrest warrants for leaders from both Israel and Hamas. This was a big step. 6. Secrets of the conflict. Many countries try to help Israel and Hamas make peace. These talks often happen in secret. Egypt and Qatar are important countries helping with these talks. The United States also helps. They discuss plans. For example, Hamas could free people they took. Then Israel could let more aid into Gaza, but Israel and Hamas do not trust each other much. These talks are very difficult. Israel wants all its people back before it stops fighting. Hamas wants Israel to leave Gaza and a long stop to the fighting. Because they disagree, a peace deal in January 2025 did not last. The war uses many weapons. The United States sends much military help to Israel. This includes tanks and bombs. This aid is very large, the biggest to a friend country. On the other side, Hamas also gets help. Israel says Iran gives Hamas weapons like rockets. Iran has also attacked Israel with missiles. Hamas said they were happy about this support. Other groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon also get weapons from Iran. This makes fighting more complex. Life in Gaza was hard before this war because of a blockade. Now the blockade is much stronger. Israel controls what enters Gaza. This means very little fuel, electricity, and water can get in. This blockade affects daily life for everyone in Gaza. A United Nations person said stopping aid is like using it as a weapon. Many Gaza families have much less water. The fighting also broke important things like water pipes and roads. It will take many years to rebuild Gaza. People are very poor and desperate. This war is also fought with words and pictures. Both Israel and Hamas use media. They want to tell their story to the world. Sometimes news on social media is not true. People who check facts find many false stories. For example, a picture shared might be old or from another place. This can make people angry and confused. It also makes it harder for leaders to find peace. Leaders in Israel and Hamas have their own problems. In Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu is under pressure. Some Israelis are not happy with his war management. There have been protests. Some want a new leader. In Hamas, top leaders were killed by Israel. Now other Hamas members try to take their places. Some say Hamas keeps hostages to get a better deal. These problems inside each group make ending the conflict harder. 7. Many different voices. The war in Gaza and Israel made many people around the world talk. Not everyone thought the same way. There were many different ideas and feelings about the fighting. It was a time when many different voices were heard. In America, people talked a lot about the war, but they did not all say the same thing. Some American people thought it was very important to help Israel. They said Israel had a right to be safe. They remembered the attack on October 7th and felt Israel needed support from its friends like the USA. Other Americans felt very sad for the Palestinian people. They saw pictures and heard stories about how hard life was in Gaza. They worried about the children and families who had no food or safe place. These people wanted America to do more to help Palestinians and to stop the fighting. So in America, there were strong feelings on both sides. Across the ocean in Europe, there were also many different thoughts. In countries like Germany, France, and the United Kingdom, people watched the news with worry. Most people in Europe wanted peace. They did not want to see more fighting and more people getting hurt. They also felt it was very important to help the people in Gaza. Many European countries sent money and supplies. Leaders in Europe often spoke to Israel and Palestinian leaders. They asked them to stop the war and let help get to the people who needed it. They hoped for a solution that would bring lasting peace. Even in Israel, people had different feelings about the war. The attack by Hamas made everyone very scared and sad. Many Israelis also worried about the hostages taken by Hamas. some Israeli people felt that the army must keep fighting. They believed this was the only way to make sure Hamas could not attack again and to bring the hostages home. They supported their government's actions. But other Israeli people were very tired of the war. They saw that fighting was also hurting many people, including their own soldiers. These people wanted peace now. They hoped their leaders would find a way to stop the war and live safely next to Palestinians. There were protests in Israel asking for peace or for the hostages to be returned. For Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank, the war was a terrible time. They suffered more than anyone. Many thousands of people were killed and many more were hurt. Their homes were broken. They did not have enough food, water, or medicine. Life became a daily struggle to find safety and anything to eat. Palestinian people wanted the war to end more than anything. They dreamed of a day when they could live in peace and safety. They wanted their own land and a country for themselves, where they could raise their children without fear. They hoped the world would help them get justice and a better future. Around the world, many voices said that breaking the rules of war was wrong. Many countries and groups like the United Nations have rules about how wars should be fought. These rules are there to protect people who are not fighting, like women, children, and old people. These are often called international laws. Many people believed that both sides in the war may have broken some of these important rules. They said that after the war, there should be a careful look at what happened. They wanted any person or group who did bad things and broke the laws to be punished. This was important for justice, and to try and make sure such terrible things do not happen again in other places. 8. An end to the fighting. The war between Israel and Hamas continued deep into 2025. There was still no clear sign of when the fighting would stop. Many people were dying every day, and many more were getting hurt. By May 2025, Gaza's health ministry reported that more than 52,600 Palestinians had been killed since the war began. This terrible number included over 16,000 children. After a short, fragile ceasefire in early 2025, the fighting started again in mid-March. It became even more intense into May, with major operations in populated areas. Many countries around the world urgently wanted peace. They strongly asked Israel and Hamas to stop the fighting. Leaders from Germany, France, and the United Kingdom made joint statements. They called for an immediate return to a ceasefire. The United States government also played an active role, trying to push for agreements. Countries like Qatar and Egypt worked very hard as mediators. Their officials traveled between Israel and Hamas to try and make peace deals. However, these negotiations were extremely difficult and faced many problems. Finding a way to end the war permanently was very hard. A very big problem was the deep distrust between Israel and Hamas. They also had fundamental disagreements about what a peace deal should include. For example, Israel insisted it would not stop its military actions until all hostages taken by Hamas were freed. Hamas, on the other hand, demanded that Israel's army must withdraw completely from Gaza before they would agree to a lasting truce. These very different positions made it almost impossible to find common ground. A temporary ceasefire in early 2025 gave some hope, but it collapsed in March. After this, Israel resumed and expanded its military operations across Gaza. They announced they would use force until all hostages were free. This meant more intense airstrikes and ground battles in places like Gaza City, Khan Younis, and Jabalia. Militant groups in Gaza also continued their attacks. The future for ordinary people in both Gaza and Israel remained very uncertain and dangerous. Many families continued to suffer greatly. It was also extremely difficult for aid to reach the people in Gaza who needed food, water, and medicine. Everyone hoped for a better, peaceful future, but the path to get there looked very long and filled with challenges. The lives of millions of people were affected by the ongoing conflict every single day. What do you think is the most important step needed to stop the fighting?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.